Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I am so happy you are here with me again today. Every time you choose to listen, to learn, and to spend a few minutes reflecting with me, I feel truly thankful. You could be doing anything right now. You could be busy with work, relaxing with family, or watching something online. But instead, you're here. And that means so much. It shows me that you care about yourself, about your learning, and about your growth. It shows me that you are serious about becoming a better version of yourself. That makes this moment special. Today, I want to talk about something that all of us share. It doesn't matter where we live, how old we are, or what we do in life. This thing touches every single person. That thing is time. Time is strange, isn't it? We cannot control it. It always moves forward. It doesn't stop for anyone. It doesn't wait. It doesn't ask us if we are ready. Time just keeps moving. Sometimes it feels like a friend because it gives us new days, new chances, and new opportunities. But sometimes, if we are not careful, time can feel like a thief. It can feel like it is stealing away our days and our chances. Have you ever looked back at a year and thought, wow, that went by so fast? Maybe you promised yourself that you would start exercising. Or maybe you told yourself that you would practice English every day. But then suddenly, 12 months went by, and not much had changed. I remember a friend of mine. He always said that one day he would learn the guitar. Every time I asked him about it, he smiled and said, one day, when work is not so busy, one day, when life is calmer. But life never really became calmer for him. Work stayed busy. Responsibilities kept growing. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. And now, when he looks back, he sometimes says, if I had started back then, I could be playing beautifully today. That is the truth about time. It passes anyway. Whether we start or not, time will keep moving. The only question is, what will we do while it's passing? Think about your own life for a moment. 1 year from now will arrive, no matter what. The days will pass, and the calendar will move forward. But here is the choice. When that time comes, will you feel grateful that you started something today, even if it was small? Or will you feel regret that you waited? This is why today's lesson is so important. Time will pass anyway. Do the thing. Start now. Take the first step. Don't wait for perfect conditions, because regret is heavier than failure. Failure teaches us. Regret just hurts. So, I want you to imagine yourself 1 year from today. Imagine the future version of you. What will that person thank you for starting today? Will it be practicing English, even if it's just 10 minutes a day? Will it be taking care of your health, even with small steps? Will it be a dream, a project, or a goal that you have been waiting to begin? Remember, time will not wait. And neither should we. Many people tell me, I'll start when the time is right. At first, that sounds reasonable. Of course, we want the perfect moment. We want free time, we want energy, we want motivation, maybe even extra money. But here's the truth. That perfect moment almost never comes. Life doesn't stop and say, here you go. Now everything is perfect. Now you can begin. No. Life keeps moving forward, day after day, whether we act or not. How many times have you said to yourself, I'll begin tomorrow? But then tomorrow came and you said the same thing again. And suddenly, tomorrow became next week. Next week became next month. And before you knew it, the whole year had passed. That is the weight of time. It keeps going whether we choose to use it or not. And the choice is always ours. So, my friend, as you listen today, I want you to take this message with you. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now. Even small steps matter. Even 5 minutes matter. Because time will pass anyway. The question is, will you let it pass empty, or will you fill it with growth, with learning, and with action? It happens to every single one of us. It's part of being human. We tell ourselves stories about the future. We imagine that the future version of us will have more courage, more energy, more time, and more discipline. We convince ourselves that tomorrow will somehow be easier. That next week, next month, or next year we will be ready. But here is the truth. The only time we really have is now. There is a simple English saying that I love. Time flies. Just two little words, but they carry so much meaning. Time doesn't move slowly. It doesn't stop and wait for us. It doesn't give us extra chances. Time flies forward like a bird in the sky, moving too quickly for us to grab. Sometimes life feels exactly like that. It feels as if everything is rushing past us, and we are always just trying to catch up. Another English expression says, in the blink of an eye. Think about that. A blink lasts less than a second. And yet, that's often how fast a whole year can feel. One day you're celebrating the start of a new year, and then suddenly, it feels like you blink, and December has arrived again. Let me give you an example. Imagine a person who wants to learn English. They think about it. They talk about it. They dream about it. But they wait. They wait until they find the perfect course. They wait until they have more free time. They wait until their kids are older, or until work feels easier. They wait until they feel ready. But while they are waiting, time doesn't stop. It keeps flying forward. A year passes, and they're still in the same place, maybe even feeling worse because they realize how much time they lost. Now compare that with someone else. This person doesn't wait. They don't search for the perfect moment. They just start. Maybe it's messy. Maybe it's only 10 minutes a day. Maybe their English is far from perfect. But they begin. And then they keep going. 1 year later, that person looks back and is amazed. They may not be perfect, but they are much further than they were before. They can see progress. They can feel change. The difference between the two people is not intelligence. It's not talent. It's not luck. The difference is action. One person waited. The other person began. I think deep down, we all secretly hope that life will send us a signal. We imagine a big green light saying, now you are ready. Now is the perfect time. Go ahead. But life doesn't really work like that. The truth is, there is almost never a perfect time to begin something meaningful. If you wait for life to become easy, if you wait for everything to fall into place, you might end up waiting forever. And that is why we must remember, while we hesitate, time does not hesitate. While we pause, time does not pause. The clock never stops. The seconds keep ticking, steady and unstoppable. Sometimes when I look back at my own life, I can see it clearly, the times when I waited too long. Opportunities that slipped away because I was waiting for the perfect moment that never came. Maybe you've had that same experience too. Looking back and realizing you lost something important because you didn't act soon enough. But I can also see the opposite moments. Times when I jumped in even though I wasn't ready. Times when I acted without knowing the outcome. And somehow, those decisions worked out. Sometimes just taking action creates the conditions we were waiting for. It's almost as if the universe rewards movement. So let me ask you, what are you waiting for right now? Are you telling yourself you'll start studying more seriously next month? Are you saying you'll write that book, apply for that job, or take that chance after something else happens? But what if that something else never comes? What if a year from now you look back and realize you are still waiting? Remember this. Time will pass anyway. That is the weight of time. It's heavy because it doesn't stop. It flies. It slips through our fingers. It disappears in the blink of an eye. And the only way we can make that weight lighter is by using our time well. By starting now, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect. Not tomorrow.
Not someday.
But today. Because tomorrow may never feel perfect. But today is always possible. When we talk about time and action, there is one truth we cannot escape. Sometimes, when you take action, you will fail. That's just part of life. But here is the important part. Failure is not the enemy. Failure hurts in the moment, yes, but it is still lighter to carry than regret. Failure stings for a little while, but regret has a way of staying with you for years. Failure says, try again. Regret whispers, what if? Let's imagine a simple example. You study hard for an exam. You prepare. You put in the hours. You go in, do your best, and for some reason you don't pass. Of course, it feels terrible. Nobody enjoys that feeling. But even in that failure, there is something valuable. You now know where your weaknesses are. You know what you need to improve. You know how it feels to sit in that room, face those questions, and manage your nerves. And because of that, when you try again, you'll be stronger, smarter, and more prepared. That is the gift failure gives us. Lessons. Now compare that with another person. This person never even takes the exam. They think about it, but they're too afraid. They don't want to risk embarrassment. They don't want to risk disappointment. So they stay silent and they wait. Fast forward 1 year, 2 years, maybe even more, and that person is still wondering, what if I had tried? What opportunities would have opened for me? Where would I be now? That what if is the voice of regret. And unlike failure, regret doesn't help you grow. It just weighs you down with possibilities that never happened. Here's another very human example. Imagine someone who likes another person deeply. They want to ask them out on a date. They think about it again and again, but they stay quiet. They're too afraid of rejection. So they say nothing, and life moves on. The other person meets someone else. Maybe they even get married. And years later, the first person is still wondering, what would have happened if I had spoken up? What if they had said yes? That is regret. And it lasts much longer than rejection ever could. Because rejection is clear. You ask, you get an answer, and then you move forward. Regret is unclear. It keeps you stuck in the past, playing out scenarios that never happened, over and over again. There's a powerful saying in English, failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every person you admire, an athlete, a musician, a writer, a business leader, or even someone who speaks fluent English, has failed many, many times. They made mistakes. They felt embarrassed. They wanted to give up, but they didn't. They learned from each failure, adjusted their approach, and became stronger. That's how they grew. Regret, on the other hand, doesn't give you that chance. It doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't give you lessons. It just leaves you wondering, wishing, and sometimes blaming yourself for not trying. I once heard a story from a nurse who worked with people near the end of their lives. She said the most common thing her patients told her was not, "I wish I hadn't failed so much."
No.
What they said was, "I wish I had been braver. I wish I had tried. I wish I had done the things I really wanted to do." Their pain wasn't about the mistakes they had made. Their pain was about the chances they never took. That is how heavy regret can be. It doesn't fade quickly. In fact, it often grows heavier as time goes by. So let me ask you, would you rather fail and learn, or would you rather look back years later and wonder forever what might have been? Think about your English journey, for example. You might make mistakes when you speak. Maybe your grammar isn't perfect yet. Maybe your pronunciation isn't always clear. Maybe sometimes you feel embarrassed. But all of that is okay, because those mistakes are not the end, they are the path. They are the way forward. Failure teaches. Regret only haunts. That's okay. Every mistake you make is not a step backward. It's a step forward. Every error you create is living proof that you are trying, that you are practicing, that you are moving. But if you never open your mouth, if you never take action, if you never practice because you're too afraid of making mistakes, then regret will follow you. One day you will look back and realize how much further you could have gone if only you had allowed yourself to fail along the way. The truth is this: failure is temporary. It feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it stings. Sometimes it makes you feel embarrassed. But that pain fades. It passes. You get back up. You try again. Regret, though, is different. Regret doesn't pass so easily. Regret stays. It lingers. It grows heavier with time. And when you put them side by side, failure on one side and regret on the other, regret is always the heavier burden to carry. Failure gives you something to work with. It gives you feedback. It gives you lessons. It gives you experience. Regret gives you nothing but questions. So the next time you face a choice, whether to try and risk failing or to stay safe and risk regret, I hope you remember this. Falling is not the end. Falling is just part of the journey. But never trying, that's where the real loss is. Common barriers. When we think about taking action, whether it's learning a new skill, starting a project, or making a change in our lives, it's not usually because we don't care that we stop. Most of us stop because of barriers. But here's the interesting thing. These barriers are rarely physical. They are not heavy chains around us.
They are not locked doors we cannot open.
Most of the time, the barriers are invisible. They live inside our minds. They are mental. They are emotional. And sometimes, those barriers can feel even harder to break through than any wall you could see with your eyes. One of the biggest barriers is fear of judgment. Think about it. How many times have you wanted to try something new, but you stopped yourself because you were worried about what other people might think? Maybe you wanted to practice English out loud, but the thought of making mistakes in front of others made you stay quiet. Maybe you wanted to share something creative, like your writing, your singing, or your art, but you imagined people laughing at you or criticizing you. The fear of judgment can feel powerful. It can feel paralyzing. But here's the truth. People are often too busy with their own lives to spend much time judging yours. Everyone is focused on their own problems, their own challenges, their own goals. And even if some people do judge, their opinion does not define your value. Yet still, fear of judgment can keep us frozen, stuck, and silent, wishing we had been braver. Another barrier is self-doubt. That little voice in your head whispers, "You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Other people are smarter, more talented, more deserving than you. You shouldn't even try." And the sad thing is, many of us listen to that voice. We believe it. And because we believe it, we hold ourselves back. But let me ask you this. How do you know what you're capable of if you never try? Self-doubt builds a cage around your potential. It locks you in. And the only way to break out of that cage is through action, by proving that voice wrong, one step at a time. And then there's another barrier. A sneaky one. Perfectionism. Perfectionism convinces you that unless you can do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. It whispers, wait until you're flawless. Don't show anyone your work until it's perfect. And what happens? You wait, you polish, you hesitate, you delay, and sometimes you never begin at all. Perfectionism often looks like high standards, but in reality, it's just fear wearing a mask. It's fear pretending to be disciplined. The truth is this: progress matters far more than perfection. As the saying goes, done is better than perfect. Every imperfect attempt, every small action, every mistake brings you closer to skill. But waiting for perfection brings you nowhere. And then there's another common barrier, one that traps more people than we realize: waiting for motivation. So many people believe that before they can begin, they need to feel inspired. They think to themselves, I'll start when I'm in the mood. I'll start when I have more energy. I'll start when I feel ready. But here's the truth: motivation is unreliable. It's like the weather. It comes and goes. Sometimes the sun shines, sometimes it rains. If you depend on motivation to move forward, you will make very little progress because motivation is never constant. What really creates results is not waiting for the perfect feeling. It's consistency. It's showing up even on the days when you don't feel like it. And here's the interesting part: motivation often comes after you start, not before. Think about it. Have you ever told yourself, I don't feel like exercising today, but once you put on your shoes and began, suddenly you felt better? The action created the motivation. The movement created the energy. But so many people do the opposite. They sit and wait, hoping motivation will strike them like lightning. While they wait, time slips away. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. And when they look back, they see how much they lost, not because they didn't care, but because they were waiting for a feeling that never arrived. So let me ask you directly, what is stopping you from starting? Is it fear of judgment? Is it self-doubt? Is it the perfectionist voice in your head? Or is it this habit of waiting for motivation? Be honest with yourself for a moment. Think about something you've wanted to do for a long time but haven't started yet. What barrier is really in your way? Here's the good news: these barriers are normal. They are common. You are not alone in facing them. Almost everyone struggles with fear, self-doubt, perfectionism, or lack of motivation at some point in their lives. But the difference between people who move forward and people who stay stuck is not the absence of barriers. It's the decision to push through them. Courage is not about never feeling afraid. Courage is about acting even while you're afraid. So the next time you feel that hesitation, pause and ask yourself, is this barrier real, or is it just in my mind? Most of the time, you'll discover that it's not the outside world stopping you. It's your own thoughts. And here's the beautiful thing: thoughts can be changed. Habits can be broken. You are not trapped. A personal story. I want to share something a little more personal with you because I believe stories have power. Ideas sound nice, but stories make those ideas real. They show us how they play out in actual lives, with real struggles and real choices. A few years ago, I decided I wanted to learn Spanish. I had always loved languages, and since I work with English learners every day, I thought learning another language would help me connect with even more people. But here's the funny thing. For years, I kept telling myself the same excuses. I'll start soon. I'll sign up for a class. I'll get around to it when life slows down. That was the moment I stopped waiting. Instead of dreaming about learning Spanish someday, I finally acted. I bought a simple beginner's textbook. I downloaded a free app on my phone, and I promised myself that even if I could only practice for a few minutes each day, I would do it. And let me be honest with you, those first weeks were messy. My pronunciation was clumsy. I stumbled over words. I forgot things again and again. I felt like a child, starting all over from zero. But here's the beautiful part. Little by little, I improved. Slowly, I started to understand more. I could say a few sentences. I recognized words when I heard them. And step by step, I felt myself moving forward. The most powerful lesson wasn't just learning Spanish. It was realizing that starting, even imperfectly, was more powerful than all the years I had spent waiting for the perfect moment. And this lesson doesn't just apply to languages. It applies to everything in life. You've probably heard the story of Colonel Harlan Sanders, the man who created Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. His story is incredible. He didn't start his famous business until he was in his 60s. Before that, his life was filled with failure after failure. He worked as a farmer, a streetcar conductor, a soldier, and even tried being a lawyer. Nothing really worked out. Now, most people at that age would have said, "It's too late. My time has passed. I should just stop trying." But Sanders didn't think that way. Instead, he took his recipe for fried chicken and started traveling across the United States. He went from restaurant to restaurant, trying to convince owners to use his recipe. Do you know how many times he was rejected? Over 1,000 times. But he didn't give up. He kept going. Eventually, one restaurant said yes. From there, his idea grew. And today, KFC is one of the biggest fast food empires in the world. Now, imagine if Colonel Sanders had said, "I'm too old. It's too late for me." The world might never have tasted his chicken. Stories like this remind us that action beats waiting every single time. It doesn't matter if you're young, middle-aged, or older. The clock is going to keep ticking no matter what. But the amazing part is this. As long as you're alive, it's never truly too late to begin. You may not reach perfection. Honestly, none of us do, but you will reach progress. And progress, step by step, has the power to completely transform your life. Sometimes, I ask myself a very simple but very powerful question. 10 years from now, what will I wish I had started today? When I ask that question, I realize something important. My future self depends on the choices I make right now. The gift I can give my future self is action. The burden I can give my future self is regret. And only I can choose which one it will be. Now I want to ask you, what about you? Maybe for you, it's English. Maybe you've been wanting to speak more, but you've been holding back because you're afraid of mistakes. Or maybe you've been planning to take that exam, apply for that job, or even move to another country, but you keep waiting for the perfect moment. Let these stories remind you, there is no such thing as perfect timing. There is only today. If Colonel Sanders could start at 65, if I could finally begin learning Spanish after years of waiting, then you can start too. You can begin right where you are with what you have, even if it's small. Because action, even tiny action, is always better than standing still. Mindset shift. Progress over perfection. One of the most powerful changes you can make in life is to shift your focus from perfection to progress. Perfection sounds attractive. It promises something flawless, beautiful, and without mistakes. But perfection is also a trap. It's a moving target that you can never truly reach. And while you're chasing perfection, you often forget to simply begin. That's why there's a popular saying, "Done is better than perfect." Because done means you tried. It means you created. It means you learned something new. But perfect often means you never finished, or worse, you never even started. Think about it this way. Every imperfect attempt moves you forward. Every mistake teaches you something. Every small effort builds progress. But waiting for perfection keeps you stuck exactly where you are. When a baby learns to walk, nobody expects perfection. They wobble, they fall, they stumble forward on unsteady legs. But no one scolds them. No one says, "Come back when you can run perfectly." Every tiny, shaky step is celebrated. Because we all know that's how progress works. First steps lead to walking, and walking eventually leads to running. Now, imagine if a baby thought, "I won't try until I can run perfectly." They would never learn to move at all. It sounds silly when we picture a baby that way, right? But here's the truth. Many of us as adults do exactly that. We say things like, "I'll speak English when my grammar is perfect. I'll share my work when it's flawless. I'll start when I'm ready to be great." But waiting for perfection becomes an excuse for never starting. And if we never start, we never grow. There's a saying I love. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. That's true in every area of life. Every musician you admire once played wrong notes. Every writer you look up to once wrote awkward, clumsy sentences. Every fluent English speaker once struggled with pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. Nobody begins as an expert. Greatness comes later, after practice, after mistakes, after showing up again and again. The only way to get there is to begin imperfect, unprepared, and unsure. And here's the real secret. Consistency beats perfection. Small steps, repeated day after day, create big results. Imagine this. You decide to read just 2 pages in English every day. 2 pages don't feel like much, right? But in 1 year, that's more than 700 pages, the length of several full books. Or imagine you practice speaking for just 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes feels tiny, almost too easy to ignore. But in a month, that's 5 hours of practice. In a year, that's 60 hours. 60 hours of real speaking practice. That's progress. Not perfect, not flawless, but real. And progress, no matter how small, always beats standing still. So let me ask you, do you sometimes hold back because you're afraid of making mistakes? Do you stay quiet because you want to say things perfectly? What would happen if you changed your mindset? What if you saw every mistake as a step forward instead of a step back? Every time you speak, even with errors, you are training your brain. You're training your mouth. You're training your confidence. You're building fluency, not perfection. And fluency doesn't grow from silence. It grows from practice. I've had students who focus so much on perfection that they almost never spoke. They wrote beautiful sentences on paper, but when it came to conversation, they froze. Then I've had students who made mistake after mistake, but they laughed, they tried anyway, and they kept going. Which group do you think improved faster? Of course, it was the second group. The ones who focused on progress, not perfection. The ones who were willing to sound imperfect today so they could sound better tomorrow. That's the mindset shift you need. Instead of asking, "Is this perfect?" start asking, "Am I moving forward?" Perfection is a finish line that doesn't exist. You'll never reach it. Progress, on the other hand, is a path. It's a road you can actually walk. And every step you take on that road adds up. 1 step today, another step tomorrow. Mistakes, corrections, learning, repeating. And then one day, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. So remember this. Done is better than perfect. And never forget, You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Let those words guide you, not just in your English learning, but in everything you've been waiting to do. Start small, stay consistent, and trust that progress, not perfection, is what will carry you toward growth, success, and confidence. A moment to reflect for you. We've talked about time moving on, how failure is lighter than regret, how barriers hold us back, and why progress matters more than perfection. Now I want to turn the focus gently to you. This is a quiet pause, not to make you feel guilty, but to give you space to think honestly and choose. Close your eyes for a moment, just for a second, and picture this. If you start today, where could you be in 1 year? Imagine your English learning, or any dream you've kept close. Maybe it's passing an exam, speaking comfortably with friends, finishing a small project, or sending your first application. Picture yourself 12 months from now. What would feel different? How would you walk, speak, or think? Small steps every day add up. Where could those steps take you? Now ask yourself, simply and honestly, what has been stopping me? Most of us say, I don't have enough time, or I'll wait for the right moment, or I'm afraid of failing. But if you look closely, is it really time, or is it the habit of waiting? Is it perfectionism, or is it the fear of starting small and making mistakes? Name that voice in your head that gives you reasons not to begin. Naming it is the first step to moving past it. Ask another clear question. If not now, when? Time doesn't pause. It moves like a river that never stops. 1 year from now will arrive no matter what. Will it find you closer to your goals, or still in the same place, wishing you had begun? Reflection is not blame. It's awareness. It's seeing where you are and choosing one brave next step. Compare how you feel when you try versus when you delay. Remember a time you pushed yourself despite nerves. How did you feel afterward? Probably lighter, more alive, more capable. Now remember the heavy feeling of saying, maybe tomorrow. That weight often sits in your chest. Which do you want? The energy of trying or the weight of regret? Now, a practical, gentle challenge. What is one small thing you can do today? It doesn't need to be big. Make it tiny and real. Examples. Practice English for 10 minutes. Write one short paragraph in a journal. Send a message in English to a friend. Open a textbook or a language app and do one short exercise. Set a 5-minute timer and read 2 pages. Reflection without action becomes daydreaming. Reflection plus one small action becomes the start of change. Take a deep breath now. Let these questions sit with you. You don't need to answer everything immediately. Sometimes the best answers arrive slowly, like a seed taking root. Let the questions warm your thoughts and guide your next small move. Use it well. Taking the first step is often the hardest part of any journey. Many people sit with their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, and keep telling themselves, I'll start tomorrow. I'll begin when I feel ready. But here's the truth. There is no perfect time to begin. Waiting for the right moment usually becomes a way of delaying progress. The real secret to growth, to change, to transformation is this: the courage to take one small step today. That step doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be impressive. It doesn't need to be perfect. What matters most is that you begin. Because once you begin, something powerful happens. Momentum builds. And when momentum builds, the impossible slowly begins to look possible. Think about learning English. Many learners wait until they feel ready before speaking. They say things like, I'll speak when my grammar is perfect, or I'll join a conversation when I know more words. But if you wait like that, you never practice. And if you never practice, you never improve. Waiting for perfection is like waiting for a train that will never arrive. Instead, try this. Set a very small goal. For example, say one English sentence to yourself every morning. That's it. Just one sentence. It feels tiny, almost too small to matter. But over time, it grows. After a week, you'll feel more comfortable. After a month, you'll feel more confident. After a year, you'll look back and realize how much you've improved, all because of one small, brave step repeated daily. Taking the first step also means accepting the risk of mistakes. You might stumble over your words. You might mispronounce something. You might forget vocabulary in the middle of a sentence. That's okay. Every mistake is a lesson that moves you forward. There's a phrase I like. Fall forward, not backward. Falling forward means that even when you stumble, you're still moving ahead. Every attempt brings growth. Waiting, on the other hand, brings nothing but regret. This lesson applies not only to English, but to every dream you hold. Whether it's starting a business, writing a book, or learning a new skill, your first imperfect step will teach you more than months of waiting for perfection. Here's another image to keep in mind. Imagine a seed in your hand. If you keep holding the seed, saying, "I'll plant it when the soil is perfect, when the rain comes, when the season is right," then that seed will never grow. You will carry it forever. But if you plant it today, even in ordinary soil, the seed begins to grow. Slowly, quietly, it develops roots. Then one day, it sprouts. That small act turns into something alive and strong. Your dreams are just like seeds. They need action to grow. And action begins with planting one small step. So ask yourself, what is one step you can take today toward your dream? Maybe it's writing down your goals. Maybe it's recording yourself speaking English for 2 minutes. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend for a short conversation. Whatever it is, don't overthink it. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Just take the step, however small it feels. Because progress is built from consistency, not perfection. At the heart of every achievement is bravery. The bravery to begin when you don't feel ready. The bravery to speak even when you fear mistakes. The bravery to try even when success feels far away. It is in those small, brave steps that true transformation begins. Think of every action as an investment in your future self. The version of you a year from now will thank you for the courage you showed today.
So take that first step.
Plant that seed. Speak that sentence. Fall forward and keep moving. Because once you start, the journey has already begun, and that is the most important victory of all. As we come to the end of today's episode, let's take a moment to look back on what we've explored together. We've talked about the unstoppable flow of time, how it moves forward whether we act or not, how it slips by in the blink of an eye. We've considered the weight of regret compared to failure, and why taking even the smallest step today is always better than waiting for the perfect moment that may never come. We've reflected on the barriers that hold us back: fear of judgment, self-doubt, perfectionism, waiting for motivation. And we've seen that acknowledging these barriers is the first step to breaking them. Most importantly, we've explored the truth that progress matters far more than perfection, that done is always better than perfect, and that you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. I want to thank you, truly, for sharing this time with me. Your choice to listen, to reflect, and to grow means so much. It isn't easy to face the challenges of learning or self-improvement, and yet here you are, showing up for yourself. That's powerful, and I am proud of you for that. Before we close, I want to leave you with one final challenge. Think about everything we've discussed today and ask yourself, what is one thing I will start today? It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's speaking one sentence in English. Maybe it's writing a short paragraph. Maybe it's sending that email you've been delaying or taking one tiny step toward a dream. Whatever it is, start now. Take that first imperfect action. Because time will pass anyway, whether you act or not. And the regret of not starting is always heavier than the weight of any failure. Remember, every step you take, no matter how small, counts. Every word you practice, every effort you make, every moment you invest in yourself, it all adds up. Your future self will thank you for the courage you show today.
So choose to act.
Choose to move forward. Choose to fall forward, not backward. Let your story be written in progress, not perfection. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reflecting. And thank you for being brave enough to take steps toward your growth. Carry this with you. Time will pass anyway. Make sure it carries you forward.